issue. Let's get some perspective here for someone who used to work within the halls of Congress, within the White House. Doug Holtz-Eakin has been an advisor to presidents, an advisor, head of the Congressional Budget Office, I say, and of course has run a conservative fiscal think tank for years. You know how Washington works, Doug. Just a couple days ago, Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden said, we don't need to negotiate. We just let our aides, our subordinates do it, and they'll work it out. And now we're hearing today, from at least from Kevin McCarthy, I don't think we've heard from Biden yet, that apparently now those two men need to be at the table. And I'm confused. Who's in charge here?
They're still in charge. Yeah. This is par for the course. I mean, they rarely get it right the first time. There has to be sometimes just posturing by walking out. Sometimes it's real. They can't quite make the progress they want to, and they walk out. So I find none of this surprising. None of it means that they won't get to yes. And the most important thing is they see each other beginning tomorrow and get back to the table and find out, how do you get 218 votes in the House and 60 in the Senate? That's it.
Yeah, good point. And for the markets, I mean, obviously the big concern here is about the potential for a default. Now, some people will look at what's the rhetoric coming out of Washington now, say, okay, this is just posturing, right? They're obviously angling for something. They're speaking to their constituents. But do they understand, or do you feel they understand the importance of making sure that no matter how much brinkmanship there is, that at the end of the day, the full faith and credit of the United States is protected and intact?
Yes, I do understand that. Remember, Kevin McCarthy is a veteran who went through the 2011, 2013 episodes, has strong memories of how that worked out. So I don't think there's anyone involved who doesn't understand what's at stake. But that doesn't mean they won't do it at the last minute. Congress does things at the last minute. That's typically the way things get done. And that's because they want to make sure each side has the same incentive to get as much as they can in the deal, and they'll negotiate to the end to do that. So I think that markets have a right to be nervous because there's a lot at stake. It's way better when you can see this in the rearview mirror, and I'm looking forward to that myself. But I don't think there's any reason at this point to conclude somehow this negotiation has somehow failed in a deep way.
So forgive me, I am going to just kind of go to the hypothetical that, let's say, a deal isn't done. There's been a lot of talk about what options the Treasury and the White House would have. Of course, the 14th Amendment, we were just saying that the Chamber of Commerce put out a letter making it clear they don't want to see that option. There's, of course, this fantastical vision of the $1 trillion coin, or whatever we're calling it these days. I know those are kind of pie in the sky things, but everyone's talking about them. And I guess, can you just give us a sense here? Not so much of if it would happen, but if they were to use those type of measures, the potential consequences that would come along with it.
I think those measures are the same as default, right? Default says that you can't govern your finances. You don't have effective governance as a country. If you're printing, minting a $1 trillion coin or invoking a legally questionable 14th Amendment, you can't manage your finances, your governance is broken. So I think markets would react in about the same way. Rating agencies would react in the same way. Those are not places we want to go. The most likely thing, if they get down to the wire and it doesn't look like they have a deal, is they do what Congress always does, punt. They can have a voice vote to extend the debt limit to September and come back to the table. So there is a way out that it involves not defaulting, and it's one that they've done a lot in the past.
Yeah, I mean, Congress has been punting, at least when we talk about, on a balanced budget basis, for years now.
This is something they know how to do.
They certainly know how to do it. I am curious. I mean, do you have any hope that maybe at one point we get past this kind of annual sort of political theater when it comes to the budget, getting things passed? I mean, do we get back to some semblance of normalcy, or am I just kind of delusional? Did that ever exist?
You're not delusional. It didn't ever exist exactly, but it was much better than what we've seen in the past couple of years. And I do hope that there will be a recognition on both sides that real work has to be done on the federal budget. Real work has to be done on programs that are important to people. Social Security should not be threatened with bankruptcy in a decade. A 55-year-old doesn't know how to plan their retirement. Medicare shouldn't be threatened with bankruptcy in 5 years. Our seniors deserve better care than that. So it's time to do the serious business that they were elected to do. Get this little mini crisis past us and get to work on the real underlying problem.
And just one last question. We only have about a minute left, Doug, but I am curious about some of the entitlement programs and whether we might actually see material cuts to some of them, particularly Social Security.
I don't think you'll see, quote, cuts, but you will see the growth rate come down. Right now, Social Security is supposed to grow at 7.1% every year for the next 10 years. There is nothing else in this economy that's going to grow at 7.1%. So you have to slow the growth rate of those benefits. Probably gonna have to put more revenue in, and that's something that our seniors deserve. So it's time to do that work.
All right, Doug, appreciate you taking time for us. That's Douglas Holtz-Eakin there. He's the president now of American Action, but he's been an advisor to presidents like George Herbert Walker Bush, as well as helping to run the Congressional Budget Office at one point.